Okay, finally getting back into the shop. It's been long enough. Here's what I want to get started on for my next project. I want to work with my pool table downstairs that I inherited, and it's going to be a billiard ball and a holder along with a pool cue rack. So you can see that I've got the balls in here, and they're just laying in a groove that I'm going to cut in there. And incidentally, this is a typical pool cue ball here. This is they're about 2¼ inches in diameter. So that's what I'm working with here, and these are drawn to that dimension. And so you can see that this rack ends up being about 37 inches long, with the groove for the balls there, and then on top I'll have these cutouts for the butt end of the pool cues, and those are spaced 2 inches apart, except when you get down to the end here. This one is 3 inches away, because this is for the bridge, it's called. And then out here is going to be a little shelf for the brush and chalk. So that's what I got going on out there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, if I'm going to cut a groove in here, like a square rectangular groove to hold the chalk so they don't slide off or get bounced off there, but that's something I can do on the fly. So anyway, what I want to show you here is, this is the rack. Oh, and the other thing I'm not showing you is there's going to be a back on this piece, and then through that back I'll be able to locate a couple of studs and then drill some holes and mount it to the wall that way. So what I'm showing here is, this is about 5 inches deep by about 4½ inches tall. So let me show you what this is going to look like. I want to bring up, this is going to represent my wall. This is going to represent another part of the rack, and this is going to represent a pool cue. Oops, this one. There. So if you look at it from this perspective, the blue part representing the wall, this is my the side of the rack, or the billiard ball holder, and this is a pool cue here. This dimension that that a pool cue is that it's leaning back is 3 degrees. So what I needed to find was, and incidentally, that's what I'm going to drill these holes at. I'm going to drill them at a 3-degree angle, so that when you put a pool cue in there, it's going to want to naturally fall back to the wall. And it's probably not necessary, but it's something I want to do. Up here, you can see that this is way too big. I just took a 5-inch wide piece again and just moved it up and down until I found a sweet spot where the pool cue tip does not touch the wall, and I could probably go even down a little further and drop that back some more, but this is what I'm going to start with. And what I found is that this dimension right here is about 2 inches from the front face to the wall face. So that gives me enough room to put a little a mounting bracket on the bottom here that I can again screw through into a couple of studs to keep that from moving. But you can see then that this is nothing more than a cutout with slots in it that the pool cue will drop back into. And here again, these will be cut at a 3-degree angle. So I want to be able to do all that at the same time, and so that they're equally spaced and everything is done correctly and they match up. So you can see then, now this is just going to give me a lot cleaner look against the wall than my old one I have downstairs, and I'll show that to you when I get ready to mount this. but the balls will be here, the brush, the chalk, and the cues all lined up. And I think it'll be a nice way to do it. So let me get some materials organized, and we'll get going and we'll start building this. Okay, here's my pieces that I've got cut for my pool cue billiard ball holder and pool cue rack. You can see my dimensions here: 37 inches, 5 inches high, or wide, I should say. So that's the top piece. This is going to be the bottom piece with the rack, and these are my sides. Everything is 3/4 of an inch thick. So as you look at this side would mount this way. Oops, sorry. Like so. This being the bottom shelf, so it'll your inside dimension is going to be 4.5 minus 1.5 inches, about 3 inches. Okay, so that's how that's going to sit. So what I'm going to do here is, want to show you is, if the ball was sitting in here like this toward the front, which is where you want it, then you're going to have about 3.5 inches of space, or 3 inches of space, I should say. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take and now looking at it from this way, so that you can see where the ball is going to be. This representing, this being the back, I want the ball to sit back here a ways. And then I'm going to have a plywood back on this so that I can screw through it and mount it to the wall. That's going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. Then you've got to add about 1/8 of an inch so that the ball isn't hitting that back directly. Then 2¼ inches for the diameter of the ball, and then about 1/4 of an inch space out front so that it doesn't, as you walk by, it won't just fall out if you happen to hit the thing. So doing all that math, that means that this ends up being the bottom shelf then is going to be 3 3/8 inches wide, which is right there. So I can remove this portion, and also from the side here, and make a nice little decorative curve coming up to put the two together. And then the top shelf will remain at 5 inches wide, so that I can get that angle that I want when I drop the pool cue in here, like so. This angle is going to be 3 degrees towards the back. So what I need to do is also mill up a piece for my top that I want to be 2 inches wide, and then figure out this curve and get everything cut up and ready to go. So the one thing I do have to do is I've got to make this rabbet here, and I want to do that before. I don't know if you can see that line or not, but I want to make that rabbet before I make the decorative cut. So I'll get busy and get that done. I'm going to make a 2-inch wide piece for the top. The top piece that will hold the cues. I've already got my other top piece cut here. So let me get those laid out, and then I'll come back. All right, that didn't take too long. I had some cutoffs from these pieces that were just about perfect. They're maybe 1/2 inch too wide. So just cut them down to 2 inches, flatten them, and just fluoresce them basically. So they're both 2 inches. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use for the top, but then the bottom one will get cut 3/4 of an inch shorter so that it's a 2 by 2. And well, actually it won't be 3/4 of an inch. I'll have a little rabbit here I want to use to put in there, so probably 1/2 inch shorter than the other, so that it ends up being 2 by 2 from the side. So got that done. Now I'm just going to do my layout work. Lay out my rabbets, cut those, and then do my French curve work here as well. But I can do both. I'll do the layouts with the curves before I do any cuts, so everything's gonna work out. And I'm working on a flat surface, and then I'll cut my bottom piece to width, and the width of this after I make my curve cut, and then we can start putting it together, I think. Well, no, I got to cut drill my hole spacing, and there's lots of things to do. But anyway, we're well on the way here. I'm going to use my height gauge to set the depth of my saw blade here. And it's just a little under 1/4 because I want to leave enough room so that I can clean it up with a hand plane. That's just kissing the blade, and I've got this set at, well, I do have it set at 250. Let me check. Oh. That's what happens when you have the remote in your pocket. So I do have it set at 250. I'm going to drop it down a little bit here. Say about 240 or so. Yeah, right there. So that means I'm a little bit high. I'll drop this down just a skosh. That should be good. So that's set at about 240 or 238 is what it says on my gauge. And then the thickness I've got set, or the width I've got set by the width of the piece. And then I'm just going to make a series of cuts this way, this way, and then you can see here, hopefully you can see my drawing for the curve starting here and going up. Set that down, there we go. So you can see here just a slight curve. And I'll make those cuts on the bandsaw after I get my rabbets established here. So let me make these cuts and then we'll come back. Rather than make a series of cuts with the blade, I'm just gonna make one pass to establish this shoulder. Then I'm gonna stand my piece up and make my other pass that way to establish the depth. So I've got I've made a test piece on a drop here to check the depth of cut, and it's good. It's about 15 thousandths away from 1/4 of an inch deep, so I'm happy with that. And I'm just gonna make my 4 shoulder cuts now, and then I'll make my saw adjustment and rip those cheeks out of there. So let me get this going here. set my blade height off of this. That should do it. Yeah, that'll be good. And my depth of cut, if that's 0, what I'm going to do is get my dial indicator on this. The blade is 100 thousandths. I need to move over from this edge. Yeah, 250 from this point. So let me get that set up and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to run my test piece again. We'll see how that checks out. And then if it's good, we'll make the other 4 cuts. Can't complain about that. 251. Close enough for what I'm doing. So that's good, but you can see here I left just a little bit inside there. I'm going to raise my blade up just a little bit so I don't have so much cleanup work to do there. So I'll bring this up just a tad. I'll make one more cut here and see what it looks like. Much cleaner, just a very little bit in there to clean up. So I'll be happy with that. So let me make these other 4 cuts. And those will be ready to go, and we can then make our bandsaw cuts. That is just ever so slightly over. That'll sand out just nice. So there you go. Clean up this little bit inside here. That's part of the reason it's not seating just properly, but I'll get that with a sharp chisel. We'll be good. Now you can kind of get a sense of what I'm going for here. You can see if I left this boxy, this would have to be out here, and then all that space in the back would basically be useless. So by moving it back, I can get that little decorative cut I want, and still achieve everything I'm looking for. So this is going to get cut back this way, from this point back to here, and then my pool cues will be sitting up here on top, spaced with 2-inch spacing. So far so good. Got to make the dados for the back, cut the back. Got to find a piece of plywood for that, and then we can move forward with making the decorative cuts. Okay, here's one of my sides, and you can see here's my mark for cutting that little arc. I took a drop off of this and made a test cut, and I got a nice fit. You can see here it's nice. It's just a little wiggle in there, which is fine because that'll leave room for glue. But on the back side, I want to show you this. You can see that I've got a little bit of a gap there, and that's good. The other thing I've got is just that little bit of reveal here. This is a little proud of this surface, so that when I do screw it to the wall, it'll pull it tight. So that's also what I'm looking for. So this is good. I don't want this to be so tight that I have to fight with it when I put it together. So it's just a little wiggle, which is good. And I've got all four pieces rabbited. I've changed my setup to do this, or dated, I should say. I've changed my setup. I just raised the bit to get me this cut here. And when I sight down my fence, I'm just able to see daylight here. So I got it probably a 1/64 of an inch away, but it's not touching. It's not going to ruin my extrusion. So I'm ready to go. I just have to pick which face I want to be on the back and which one on the front. I think I'll go this way. So I'm ready to make this cut. 4 cuts, I guess, actually. I'll make the 2 side cuts first and then the long ones. Alright, let's see how things fit here. That one's a little tight. I'll make another pass on that one. better. I'm going to have to make another pass on this long edge. It's just a hair tight. Gotta make sure I get good down pressure on that cut when I'm making it. Okay, after a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I got the fit I'm looking for. And you can see here, that's the box I want right there. If I can flip this around and show you the back. So when I pull this tight, see where I am here. There we are. Let's show you the one corner. When I pull everything tight, I've got this little reveal here, which allows this thing to kind of self-square. And I mean, this helps square it up, but you get that little bit of relief there, and then you're not fighting it when you're putting it together. So that'll be good. So then all I need to do then is make my decorative cuts, and then narrow the bottom. So I have to cut this back. Make sure I don't lose this. And cut this back this way. Cut the bottom shelf to match. Make the groove for the ball. Cut my holes. My pattern hole here to hold the cues. But that's going to be tomorrow's project. That's enough for today. So, thanks for watching, guys.